Okay, here we're going to show you how to make an adjustment on your raise and lower mechanism that raises and lowers your image on 3302 Ryobi. This here is the knob that you actually engage to raise and lower your image. Sometimes what happens is when you turn this, if it gets locked up full of etch or it gets a jam, it'll try to turn over the entire press like so. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you how to make an adjustment to see if we can fix that without using any parts. So here's your access hole right here, and we're going to see if we can show you what's going on in there. So if you look real close, I'm going to turn this around with a hand wheel, and you're going to see a block. There's the nut. Actually, when I engage this raise and lower, you can see when I turn this, that's the mechanism we're turning. There's a number of gears in there that make that turn like that. So there's one 4mm bolt, there's a second one, and there's a third one. We're going to loosen those up, and we're going to push that block in towards the center of the cylinder, so this direction after I loosen it, to push it this way and take up all the backlash in the gears. I want the gears to be set as deep as they can be. So here's the other end of that, one of the helical gears that it spins. So we're just going to turn this all the way around so you can see. There's the actual gauge, I'll show you that in a moment, that tells you where the cylinder is in relationship to the gear. And just keep going. There's a zerk. There's one of the reasons why this will typically fail is people don't realize there's a zerk there to pump grease in, and that grease will go between the gear and the cylinder. It goes on the journal. So what we're going to do here is we're going to loosen these 3 bolts. I'm going to loosen all 3 of them, and usually they're pretty tough to loosen, but I've already loosened them, so I'm just going to show you here how we get all 3 of them loose. So now let's see if I can actually, there you can see it's loose. There's a little bit of slop in the holes. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you how to get to that, to adjust it or to even remove it. So we're going to come over here. So first thing we got to do is we got to remove this blanket holder, blanket washer holder. This holds your blanket washer. There's one on the other side as well. We're going to take these 2 6mm bolts out, which I've already loosened up. And then you usually have to pry this off here because there's 2 pins that set it into the frame. So pins go in there. There's a pin there and there. That pops that off. And then I've also had to remove a bolt out of this safety bar. This pinch bar here, there's a hole right there in the side frame. 5mm bolt that comes through there. And I had to do all that in order to get this guard loose because that guard is in the way. So we're going to take these screws out of here, and I have a magnet handy, just so I don't lose these screws. Okay, got the gear guard off. Now I'll show you. There you can see the block I'm talking about right there. It mounts on the edge of the cylinder, and the movement you get is this seam right here is where you would maybe want to squirt some oil down in there, just in case it's just a lube issue. There you can see when I'm turning it, you can see the gear spinning around the cylinder. But sometimes what happens is there's a jam up, or if somebody tries to strong arm it, they'll throw it out of adjustment. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to hold in on this with another tool, just anything. I'm going to push in on this while so right now I'm wiggling my raise and lower, and I'm pushing it tight in that direction to the center of the cylinder. So I'm going to push it in there tight, and then I'm going to, at that point, they've got it made so the middle screw is right where that access hole is on the other side. So I'm going to hold this in tight, and I'm going to wiggle my raise and lower knob, and I'm going to just snug down the middle bolt on the other side here. You can actually see my Allen coming through. So I'll just snug that down just a little bit. Then I'm going to come down to the second one, either the top or the bottom. Let me find it. Just going to snug that one down. I'm going to go back this way. Make sure you use the hand wheel on this. We're not inching. I'm going to do the same thing here. I can't see it. Left side. Okay, so once that's all done, make sure they're getting tight, and then you've got your raise and lower back. What happens is the gears that are supposed to mesh like this, they come out a little bit, and then it makes it so the angle is not right on the gears, and it's really hard for it to mesh properly and move the way it's supposed to. So I'm going to go one step further now. I'm going to remove the block right out of there. So I'm going to pull those screws right out of there. And show you how to remove the block. I'll take the middle screw out last. Got the bottom one out. Yep, it's live. I'm going to take the top one out here. Put my magnet in there and pull it out. Now on the third one, I'm going to want to make sure I get my magnet on the inside here so I don't drop it. Actually, I may have to hold it a hand first. To pull the bolt out, the last bolt. And now I can move the block. So there's the block. Here's where the 3 screws go in. This is a gear that rides against another gear in the cylinder. I'll show you that in a minute. So both of these gears, and there's 3 or 4 more gears in there in the segment gear that make the cylinder circumferential operate properly. Sometimes these gears get messed up, or these get messed up, so it gets hard to turn. One more thing I'll show you is if your image moves on you, raises or lowers during a run slightly, 1 or 2 or 3 rows of dots, this 13mm nut has pressure washers under it. You can actually remove or add pressure to this nut, and that should allow it to, so it doesn't move on you while you're running. So I'll just show you here real quick. Another gear in there, some other gears inside there. The segment gear, another gear. So we're going to put it back together now. So I'm going to put a bolt, one of the bolts on my Allen already. I'm going to get it staged in the hole. Make sure I got my concave bolts out, so it's going to go like this. And I got to make sure that middle hole is lined up out here, and it looks like that it is. 1, 2, 3. So there's my middle hole right there. And I just got to kind of wiggle it around until I find it there. Let's see. There we go, I think I found it. Okay, so that bolt is started. Just want to start it, I'm not going to tighten it down yet. I'll move it to the next one. Get that bolt started. Again, I'm not going to tighten it, just want to get it started. And the last one. Sometimes you can dip the tip of your Allen wrench in some grease to hold the screw on it, if you don't have some kind of magnet to do that with. Okay, so I'm going to come back up to the middle one. And again, I'm going to wiggle my raise and lower, and I'm going to push this in as hard as I can get it in there. Push it really tight and snug that middle bolt down. Go to one of the other ones, hold in again, and the last one, push in tight. Now I'm just going to go back and make sure they're all nice and tight. Okay. Now we're going to try it. Yep, looks good. So I was going to also show you where the gauge is at. Right there. And that actually shows you where your image is in relationship to the maximum up and down when you're raising your image. When the two red lines line up, that should be the center. So I believe you have about 1 inch to 1.25 inches total movement up and down from center. And then the grease zerk I was showing you about is right there. Just pump a little grease in there every now and again, and that'll loosen up, or that'll at least keep lube in between where this gear meets the edge of the cylinder. There's a cavity in there that fills with grease. Sometimes that's not the problem though. The problem is there's a bunch of etch in ink might even get down inside this crack and fuses these two pieces together. In that case, you have to just come back with maybe some blanket wash, WD-40, or I've even had to use hot water to melt some of the etch in there. Obviously you need to come back with oil afterwards, some thin oil, 10, 20 weight non-detergent oil, or some WD-40. So there's how you replace or adjust your raise and lower mechanism when it's froze up. 3302 Ryobi.